My name is Peter Hopkins, and I'm the director of the Crane Museum and Center for the Paper Arts in Dalton, Massachusetts. Crane Paper was founded here by Zenas Crane in 1801 at age 23. He came from a papermaking family. His uncle, Colonel Thomas Crane, and two partners took over what had been Massachusetts' first paper mill in the Boston suburb of Milton. They took it over in 1770, so to put them in perspective, this is 2 years after the British occupation of Boston, a couple of months after the Boston Massacre, and 5 miles away. They left nothing on the table in terms of their politics. They called it the Liberty Paper Mill. That's the mill where young Zenas Crane learned how to make paper and learned the rudiments of the paper business. He went to a mill in Worcester in the mid-1790s and decided it was time to strike out on his own. Came out here to scout the place in 1799 and found some great water, some great people, and enough rags to make paper. Came back a couple of years, opened the place up, and the rest is history. In the Liberty Paper Mill, not very many loyalists doing business there, as you might imagine, and we know that because we've got the ledger, which is now in storage where it should be, but we've had it out here all these years just to show that Paul Revere was our first currency paper customer in 1776. He engraved what were called soldier notes, which were used to pay Massachusetts soldiers for their service in the Revolutionary War. There's another Paul Revere entry way back in the ledger showing him in 1777 paying the Liberty Mill to keep his horses there in case he needed to ride someplace. There's quite a cast of characters that walked in the doors of the Liberty Paper Mill. So much so that we think there might have been a little bit more than paper making going on in that mill. But certainly when you step back for a moment, this is a family and a company that not only makes its products in America, but helped make America. At age 21, Zenas Crane had already worked in 2 mills and decided it was time for him to strike out on his own. And so he headed west on what is now Route 20, the old Boston Post Road, and loved the Westfield River, but there was already somebody there making paper. So he traveled up over the mountain in Windsor, came down, found the Housatonic River, and followed it all the way down past Wacona Falls to about where we are today. So we found beautiful clean water and great horsepower. The joke is, you know, when the same question is asked of a family member, they say, well, this is where his horse died. The museum is housed in what was the rag room from Crane's Old Stone Mill, which goes back to 1844. This is all that's left of it, but we're very happy that they did indeed save it. And in 1929, they decided to turn it into a museum. And so this makes us one of the oldest corporate museums in the country. Visitors to the Crane Museum will certainly, because it's a museum, get a dose of history. Family history, papermaking history, company history, but also about the history of money, the history of stationery, and how these things are relevant in the 21st century. The dirty old household rag bit lasted here only till 1820, and I'm sure it was a happy day in the rag room when that happened. We're about 30 miles from the Hudson here, and when traffic up and down the Hudson became more reliable, we were able to get bales of garment cuttings from the textile manufacturers in New York and the linen makers in Dublin, Ireland. We actually have the opportunity to talk a little bit about science, about light, about chemistry, to make sure that in this era of STEM, that folks understand that what goes into, let's say, a $100 bill is crazy science. To be perfectly honest, we don't take ourselves very seriously here. We make this a significantly personal experience. People come in, we know where they're from, we find out their names, we trade pictures of their grandkids, we make mess out there, so we have a lot of fun. Birthday cake.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
Now let's put another color on there. Purple. Does This is my color combination of the week. We also have a playroom that we created in June. So it's very new to us. But it has added a whole nother dimension to the museum experience. Not only do we get hands-on, but we get messy. We promise all our moms that we will never use oil paint or anything like that, so you can wear nice clothes too. Well, currently in our playroom, we make paper. Recently, we've been making paper out of denim, blue jeans, because that's kind of fun. And one of the guiding principles of what we make paper out of in our playroom is that there has to be a connection between the raw material and the end product. We don't make white paper unless it's going to be made from a baby blanket, a wedding gown, nurse's whites, Marine uniform, or there's got to be some compelling story because aside from kids, if people are going to come in here and make paper for artistry or whatever, I want them to use this, and I want them to use this as well. But most of all, we have fun with kids. Certainly the reputation or the tradition of the Crane Museum does not lend itself to having people think that they can have a really good time here with the kids, but guarantee it. He's a professional.
Wow.
Look at this.
Came out right.
For the better part of 2,000 years, paper was made from discarded household rags and garment cuttings. Your shirt wore out, you'd use it as a rag. Rag wears out, sell it to the rag man sells it to the paper maker. Went on for almost forever. We don't use trees at all. Wood pulp came along here in about 1876, actually in a mill right outside of West Stockbridge. And that made paper cheaper, easier to make, more accessible, and for some reason, I'm sure that people sat around a table and said, that's not where we want to go. And of course, at that point, they had been making paper for state and national banks for quite some time, and certainly understood that if they wanted to get into the currency paper market, that they had to have a product that would be durable and printable.
We traveled to Dalton, Massachusetts to watch Crane make the most valuable paper in the world.
A video that we show of how U.S. currency paper is made here it's a lighthearted look at what we do. We don't do factory tours. There's too much secret stuff going on, so there's nothing to see anyway. So this was a Made in America program that was done 10 years ago, and John Ratzenberger from Cliffy at Cheers came in for 2 or 3 days, and he turned this place upside down. So this is a lighthearted look at what we do, but give you a much better idea of how things work than you'd ever get in a factory tour anyway.
And where does the real stuff come from? Well, right here in Dalton, Massachusetts. Dalton calls itself heaven in the heart of the Berkshires. That's not a bad description.
It's not all about money. Crane's been making stationery for a couple of 100 years, and so we celebrate that history, even though the Crane Stationery division is now its own company and it's employee owned, and it's doing very, very well. Same people, same paper, same talent. So we celebrate that, and the art of engraving and the art of letterpress and the incredible handwork that's still done on Crane's fine paper. We have a really nice selection of Crane stationery here at the museum, where people can come in and purchase what they like, and I don't mind telling you it's discounted. Almost without exception, because we ask people every day. People know nothing about their money, which is fascinating, but what a great opportunity for us. We get to tell people about things they don't know, about things that are in their pocket. We talk about what the paper's made from, 75% cotton, 25% flax. We tell people when they go to the store and they take your bill and they mark it with a pen, we tell you what's happening there. And we explain in some detail how to find counterfeits, should you ever encounter one, which is unlikely, but counterfeiting's a sexy topic, so we deal with that. And we talk a lot about the science that goes into making this stuff now. In the 30 years I've been here, Crane has changed really from a paper company to a technology company. There are still people who retire after 30, 40, 50 years, but the jobs are changing, and that's, I guess, no surprise. We get asked a bunch of questions here, and as I mentioned, people don't know much about their money. So the first question is, well, where do you get your wood from? We don't do that. The second question is, how do you get it from here to there? I said, we don't really talk about that. Some things we can talk about, some things we can't talk about. But most people who come in here are not looking to find out the great secrets of making currency paper, but they're absolutely fascinated, as they should be, with the composition, what's in the paper, what's on the paper, what its purpose is, and little, we call them secrets, but they're not, because we're telling them.
Right.
We like to give people a little closer look at their money, because we don't look at our money very often, so we make it easy here. We've got this beautiful blown up $100 bill, so people can see things with the naked eye that you cannot see. Some are security features and some are artwork. We also have a digital microscope that people can look all over the bills and see what they can see that maybe you can't see with the naked eye. Again, some security features, and the kids, when they get tired of looking at the bills, they'll look at their hands and their shirts and their shoes and things like that. So it's been a great $50 investment to help broaden the experience here for young and old. Oh, there are very serious collectors of old banknotes and old currency, to the point where if they see a C that has a little nick in the corner, they'll know exactly when that was made and where it was made and who made it. So it's fun to have those folks come in and actually teach us. We learn what people know and what they think, and they help us create a better experience by helping us talk about their experience. We have a small but really nice collection of old bills for people to see. But especially we have banknotes from other countries around the world. Crane has a mill in Sweden, and that's where our international business takes place. And at any given time, we're making paper and or engraving notes for 2, 3, 4 dozen countries around the world. And we're also building an engraving facility in the island of Malta. So it's quite a different business than when I arrived here 30 years ago, especially these pieces of paper. It's not exactly the Willy Wonka factory, because when folks arrive for work, they go in and they do let them out, but they don't say anything about what they do. I don't have any interior pictures of this place before it became a museum in 1929, and I really wish I did, because I know that a lot of this is not original. In 1929, when it was turned into a museum, Crane hired a New York architect who specified what's called ship's hull architecture, like a boat turned upside down. And the nearest example of that is about 150 miles away in Hingham, Mass. The old ship church there that goes back to about 1670. That's evidently where he took his inspiration from, so it's a little out of place, but he gave us a great room to work with.
If anyone out there has a photo, give you a call.
Please.